Hi, everybody. This is Alex. This is a bit of a different episode because it's me by myself, although I am currently sitting in bed with Poppy, as everyone knows, my dog, and also our family dog, Coco, because I am dog sitting her. So I'll get right to the chase of what today's episode is going to be about, and it's going to be a bit of a hard episode, I feel like, because the dates just kind of aligned where today is the second anniversary of my mom's passing. That anniversary, I just kind of came up with the idea to do a whole dedicated episode as like a ode to my mom because, you know, every girl can say I had like the absolute best mom in the world, and everyone has the best mom in the world. You know, it's just what makes moms amazing. Okay, this is like, it's weird. It's weird talking to myself. I feel like I'm kind of talking in circles. So like, I feel like I just kind of have to get into the nitty gritty, you know, like I really just want to tell you guys what are the fun random memories I think about. Like I have a very weird memory in my opinion, and I kind of like lock into like the same like 4 or 5 memories all the time, and you know they just kind of run and replay in my head. So really I want to tell you about my mom because she was honestly fucking amazing. You know, she was generous, she put others ahead of her always, and it's always the worst. And when you have like such a nice and genuine person that you're like, why did that person that like leaves early, you know? And like she was such a like matriarch of our entire family, and it's just weird. But sorry, this is like such a weird episode for me. So let me just get into it. So to start off, my mom's name was Adel, and no, not like the singer Adele. I mean, pronounced the same way, spelled differently. There is no E on the end. My mom was born in Hungary in a town called Miskolc. She moved to Canada when she was 16 years old. And by the way, if you could hear whatever that was in the background, that was Coco hacking up a hairball. Lovely. So she moved to Canada when she was 16. She didn't know a lick of English. You know, from the story she told me, she was kind of like the mysterious European girl that moved to Canada in high school, and like all the guys kind of like fawned over her, but she literally could not communicate with them to save her life for a while. But she eventually got a job at McDonald's, good old Mickey D's, working for $2.50 an hour. I heard that many of times, and how she was saving up for a pair of Jordache jeans, which I feel like our generation has no idea what that is, but apparently they were the hit jeans of the time. I mean, let's say it's like the Dorinas of her time. For anyone growing up in the Vancouver area, you understand what Dorinas are. But she was working at McDonald's. She moved out when she was 16 years old. She worked, she went to college, bust her ass. You know, she had my sister when she was 21. She had me when she was 26. My parents separated. I was fairly young, like 4 or 5 years old. You know, I would sleep in my mom's bed for 2 reasons. One, because my dad let me watch a scary movie when I was really young, and that like literally scarred me. I could not sleep in my own room. But I also just liked hanging out with my mom. Like I had like a really good relationship with her. Like I was her like youngest daughter. I was her little baby girl. So, you know, I would like beg to sleep in her room and she would let me. But I do remember there being some nights where she'd be like, do you want to come sleep in my bed tonight? And like looking back on it as an adult, it's just like, I could tell she was going through a lot, you know, like she had been she had ovarian cancer when I was younger, and she had gotten back together with my dad. And when she beat ovarian cancer, she tried to make things work with my dad, but it just didn't like work out. And they were like best friends, you know, until like the day that she passed away. So they tried to make it work. It just, you know, wasn't in the cards. So I could tell she was going through a rough time. And so it was kind of like interesting to know that, you know, she would want me to come and spend nights with her because she needed me, not necessarily vice versa. But she worked her way up at a company called Brinks Home Security. It's kind of like home security systems, but she worked there for like my good portion of my life, like up until I graduated high school. So like, you know, she became a branch manager in her early 30s. And I, you know, used to be so sad that she would be working so late. But now as an adult, I know she was just like absolutely busting her ass to provide for us as a family. I mean, she was a single mom. Of course, my dad was like helping out and all that fun stuff, but she was trying her absolute best and, you know, also trying to get a fun career for herself. I mean, I'm a very big supporter of like women wanting to work. You know, you don't have to be a stay-at-home mom to be a good mom. But it reminds me of a story where, you know, I think it was like in the thick of it, like in this weird transitional time where we were at the grocery store. I was absolutely obsessed with Aaron Carter, like loved the kid. And there was like one of those like J14 magazines or something, and they did like a whole special issue just about Aaron Carter. And I was like, Mom, can I please have it? And she was like, oh, fine, whatever. And then when she realized that the magazine was $10, she was like, absolutely not. I screamed my face off. I wanted this magazine so badly. And eventually, like a couple days later, I like begged my dad to go get it for me. And he did, because he's a superstar. But it wasn't until like I was an adult that she told me like she barely had money to like buy milk that day, let alone waste $10 on a magazine for me to, you know, gaggle over Aaron Carter. So she honestly, like, it's just really funny to think about that. I don't know why. But moving forward, my mom dated. You know, time went on. She had a couple boyfriends here and there. She had one longer term boyfriend. We're not going to discuss him because, but when I was 12, my mom met Kent, who really was like the first guy that like I could tell she could like relax around. You know, like he made her laugh, he made her happy in a really unique way that I had never like really seen before. Because, you know, again, as an adult, I realize now I have no idea how the fuck my parents were ever together. Like they're complete opposites. Like my mom's like boss bitch, get shit done, and my dad's just like a goofy guy that is like, I don't know, he's just like a European dude. Like I don't know if that makes sense whatsoever. Love him though, he's fantastic. They just were not a match. But anyways, so my mom and Kent, they got married I think in 2007. They're inseparable. They shared a lot of like the same philosophies in life, like putting family first, like traveling, and I think they both really shared a commonality in making sure that like, you know, what you do is like your career is like you genuinely love to do that. Like why waste time doing a job that like you absolutely fucking hate? And with that in mind, they started their own company, which is still loud and proud to this day. And, you know, they built this company together, and like, I always thought like, oh, how can you guys work together? Like they worked from home. They had a home office. I was like, how are you guys together all day long? And like, you're still fine. But they loved it. Like they could not get enough of it. Like I would go out for dinners with them and all they would talk about like is work, but it's because they like genuinely loved it. Like they built a company they were just both so, you know, excited about all the time. So I was like, damn, you guys got something good going on if you can work together and be together just like fucking 24/7. Separately from this, you know, my mom was a grandma. I have a niece and nephew, Mia and Dominic, that I've talked about before, but so she was Grammy to them. You know, my mom absolutely adored being a grandma. Like she couldn't get enough of it. She could not hassle me and Steven enough to have kids. She was just dying for more grandchildren. So like, you know, she had the kids on weekends. She'd take them everywhere. Like she was just so ecstatic. And like, honestly, I was really stoked for like one day to like give her another grandchild because she spoiled those kids fucking rotten. Like they had it pretty good with her in the best way possible. Like she like just took them everywhere. She got them really cool stuff. She spent genuine time with them, getting to know them, their interests and all that fun stuff. So I swear, like almost every weekend I would go to her place, she would like have the kids, and that was my time to spend with them too. But for me, although I don't have children of my own, or I didn't have grandkids to give to her, you know, like my mom and I had like an insanely close relationship. And like, again, I know a lot of, you know, mother-daughters have really good relationships, and I'm just happy that I fall into the bucket of ones that do. You know, like I could literally talk to her about anything. You know, I may have leaned on her too much for advice sometimes, but it just seemed that like whatever she told me was like the single source of truth. Like I didn't want to believe anyone else. Like if my mom said the sky was purple, I would believe her and tell everyone my mom said this guy was purple. Like it's just like a unformidable trust, if that's even like the right word. But like I remember like fighting with Steve once. I think I wanted to, when we were living in a studio apartment, I wanted to move into a 2-bedroom apartment, and it was going to be a little bit more. It was going to be like an extra $300 or $400 a month in rent. And Steve is a little bit of a penny pincher. And I just remember like being upset because he didn't want to. And I just remember calling my mom and like just doing, you know, the good old, you got to vent it out. You got to vent about your mans to your friends. And I guess in this case, my mom too. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure I vented to my friends too. And I think my mom like either like texted him or called him and was like, you need to do this. And like, but she didn't do it in a nagging way. She would like literally just list out the facts. Like she was a realistic person that like, if I was wrong, like she would not take my side on it. You know, like there was even another time, like I was sitting at the dining room table with her. It was like me, her, and Steve. And I was looking up a pair of like, you know, expensive-ish boots. And I was like, which ones do you like? Do you like this one or this one? Which one should I get? And she's like, get both. Like, if you like both of them, just get both. Like, she's a bit of an enabler. She is the reason why I'm such a shopaholic, but I love it and I'm fucking here for it. And it's like a whole personality trait that I would like to think that I got from her. So, you know, a lot of our favorite pastimes, mainly shopping. You know, every Friday after school, I would go to my grandparents after school every day when I was in middle school. In elementary school, and on Fridays my mom would pick me up, and like I would say like 9 out of 10 times we would go shopping like directly from my grandparents' place. You know, we liked to watch TV. We didn't go to the movies as much here and there, but we liked the really cheesy shows like the TLC specials like 90 Day Fiance, Say Yes to the Dress, you know, those type of fun shows. But I swear, like every other day, like school day night sort of thing, like I would come home from school, I'd wash my hair. I'd make sure it was bone ash dry by like 8-9 o'clock. And then I'd sit in front of the TV and my mom would straighten my hair for me because I was an idiot that could not do it myself. And although she was annoyed to do it, you know, I would literally have to beg her to do it. And some days she'd be like, I'm too damn tired, I'm not doing it. But most of the time she did do it. And it's a fun memory for me to look back on because, you know, we'd sit there, we'd watch Desperate Housewives, another fan favorite of ours, and she would straighten my hair for me. Although she attempted to curl my hair once for picture day, and she burned my face right before picture day, so that was interesting. I do still have that picture somewhere, I'm sure. All I wanted was to just talk about my mom. We would always have fun stories to swap, you know. We loved to gossip and could just talk for like hours on end. Like, you know, when she was going through her chemotherapy, there was a night where Steve and I were over and we just like sitting at the dining room table. Like I want to say it was the same night that I was looking at those boots. Like I'm like 98% sure. But we were just sitting there talking. And I don't even remember what it was about. It's just like we can just talk in circles, you know, about life, like, you know, where Steve and I were going. Like we were engaged at that point. I'm sure we were talking a lot about the wedding. And my stepdad got mad at us because he was like, she needs to go to bed. She needs to be, you know, like have as much energy as possible and all this stuff. And I remember my mom being like, I'll go to bed when I want to go to bed, which is funny. And like, I always found it sweet. Like, you know, Kent would always look out for her and, you know, have her best interest because she could literally run herself ragged sometimes. And, you know, he had her best interest, but she hated giving up a power to that sickness. But he tried to take care of her the best that he could. But, you know, even before Steve, like my mom would listen to me cry about boys all the time growing up. Like, and I'm sure like I always thought it was like the end of the world. And this, my mom's probably just sitting there like, oh my God, she's 15 years old and she's crying over a boy. Like she doesn't even realize this is the beginning. But she'd give me advice on stuff as much as she could, you know, and I always turned to her about stuff in like my career and working and growing and like stuff around that, because I'd always be like, is my job allowed to do this? Is my boss allowed to do this? My boss is a bitch. My boss is fantastic. You know, like I always, you know, her being a branch manager for this company, I knew the people that like she worked with, and I still know, you know, some of them to this day. Like everyone like looked up to my mom. They praised her. She had such a fantastic management style. So I would always like hold my bosses to such a high level of expectation based on how she treated her workers. Because in my mind, I'm like, it's possible to be a human being, you know, being a manager. You don't have to treat your employees like shit. So I had zero tolerance for stuff like that, basically. And it's because my mom taught me the best. She taught me how people should be treated. Even you know, okay, this like sounds like mega ass clingy, but like we would text like almost like every day, like all day long, like just random chit chat chatter. Like, again, sounds super clingy. I even had like G chat at work, and I would like G chat with my mom just like about like random stuff, because like just genuinely we were good friends. Like we could like talk about anything. Like we're fucking gossip queens. Like we would talk about anything. So fast forward to 2018, we planned an awesome Europe trip because, like I said, my mom was born in Hungary, and like even my dad is Hungarian too. So I'm like full Hungarian, and I've never been to Hungary before. So my mom and Kent had planned this giant like Italian vacation, and it just kind of came up in conversation. She was like, hey, why don't we, you know, leave a little bit earlier, go to Hungary, you and Steve can meet us there, and I can show you around Hungary, like your motherland. And I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. So we did that whole trip together. We were in Hungary for about 4 or 5 days. She took me to like the Széchenyi baths, the Fisherman's Bastion. I celebrated my 26th birthday with like a fancy ass like 5 or 6 course meal at this like really, really fancy restaurant that, you know, had a lot of emotion for my mom, because the last time she had been there was with my aunt, who had unfortunately passed away, I believe like three years prior to that. So, you know, it was very nice for her to like have like a new memory there as well of like me celebrating my big 26th birthday. So from Hungary, Steve and I went to Rome, and my mom and Kent carried on to Italy. But of course, Steve and I got engaged in Rome. My mom knew we were going to get engaged before I did, because Steve had told his mom, and he had also asked my dad's permission. So while we were still in Hungary one night, we were having dinner. And my mom's like, oh, why don't you call your dad? So like my dad was a G. He like got me and Steve like the tickets to Europe as like my first trip to Hungary. And, you know, he knew again. And so I call him. I'm saying like, thank you so much for this trip. I'm having an amazing time. I give the phone to my mom so she can say hi. She starts crying. And I'm like, why are you crying? Like, you're embarrassing. We're at a restaurant. What is going on? And she's like, I'm just so emotional. Like, you're in your motherland. I'm just so excited for you to be here. And I'm like, okay. But what really happened was my dad spilled the beans. I don't know why he thought it was a good idea for him to spill the beans to my mom while she is literally staring at me. She was literally crying. She was so excited for us to get engaged. So, you know, at least I had literally no idea. I was literally just like, stop crying. You're so embarrassing. But, you know, within that trip to Italy, like we started basically like planning the wedding like almost immediately. She's like, when do you want your wedding? And like, you know, she's somewhere else in Italy. I'm still in Rome. Steve's like, please like calm the fuck down. Like, I just need like 2 seconds to like be engaged before we're actually married. You know, when I did finally tell her that we were engaged, I FaceTimed her, and she was at the top of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and she was literally telling anyone that could listen that we were engaged, and she was very, very excited about that. So we go face first into wedding planning, and, you know, we got engaged beginning of July. I had about 2.5 glorious months where I felt like literally I was the luckiest girl in the world. You know, I felt untouchable. I had everything I wanted. You know, I'd been bugging Steve for a while. I was like, I want to get engaged. I want to marry you. I love you so much. You know, best 2.5 months, you know, and then middle of September, Steve and I are staying at a hotel because our hotel room or our apartment was rented out for a TV commercial. You know, decent money. Got put up at a really, really nice hotel. It was a nice little staycation, will you? You know, I woke up that morning at 7 o'clock for some reason, and my mom had texted me, and she's like, can I call you? And I was like, that's really weird. She would never ask to call me like that early in the morning. So, you know, I get up, I go to the bathroom to not wake up Steve, and I'm like, what's going on? And that's when she tells me that she has breast cancer. And it was such a surreal moment. I'm literally sitting on the floor in this like random hotel room, and she's telling me this, and I was like, there's no way, like, you know, like what, how, you know, and it was basically just classic situation of her finding a lump, and yeah, and that's the way I found out. And I'm pretty sure I went to go see her, you know, that day, console her, be with her and whatnot. You know, she was scared. She'd already beaten ovarian cancer, you know, when I was like 5 or 6 years old. You know, even at that time, you know, I was so young, I had no idea what was going on. Like, I remember my mom going in for surgery because she had like full hysterectomy. So after that, like, she couldn't have any more kids. And I just remember her saying like, oh, there's a bug inside of me. And like, me being 6 years old, like, took it very literally, thinking there was like a fly, like a bug inside of her. And I was like, that's disgusting. Yes, get that motherfucker out. And, you know, she didn't have to have chemo that time. So she didn't lose her hair. Like, she had radiation that first time, and was like literally none the wiser. I didn't really like fully understand it until I was older. So, you know, I can only imagine a sense of like, motherfucker, I already did this once. Why do I have to do it again? You know? And it was like a triple negative breast cancer, which is a very rare form of breast cancer, which has a very high mortality rate. So, you know, we still all wanted to be like really, really positive about things because, you know, the miracle of medicine of the 21st century. But we very quickly got to things. She got a double mastectomy on Halloween. You know, I played nurse. I had to drain her like tubes. Like, you have like your like lymph nodes or whatever and they have to drain. So like, I literally played nurse. Like, I had to like drain them, I had to measure them, I had to manage her pain medication. I had like a whole fucking binder, like little nurse Ratchet over here. You know, like with the news of everything. We moved our wedding. Originally it was going to be November of 2019 and we moved it to June 2020, which fuck COVID, as we all know. You know, the next 4 months after she had her surgery, she was, you know, doing chemo every couple of weeks. She'd have one crappy week, one fairly good week. So, you know, as we were planning the wedding on her secondary week, which was like when the chemo was kind of like wearing off a little bit, like that's when I would plan for us to go like wedding dress shopping or going to look at venues and stuff like that. And like, she was honestly just such a good sport. And I could tell she was really excited to get out of the house because she'd be literally like housebound for a week and a half, which was like nuts for my mom. Like, she hated being indoors. She loved going to like restaurants. She loved being social. Like, she really wanted to go like salsa dancing. Like, that's just the stuff that she loved to do. So I could tell she was so happy to get out of the house and have a good reason to do so. When she before she had her surgery, we had cut her hair into a bob, and you know, at a certain point with chemo, we had to shave all of her hair off, and it was such a crazy emotional day. We went to a hair salon because like we just didn't want to like fuck it up at home. So we literally remember walking and being like, we just need you to shave it all off. And they were just so confused. And it was kind of annoying because we're like, hey, like we're not coming in here to fuck with you. Like, if someone's asking like shave their hair off, like I would hope that like most people would like understand and be like, okay, you know? And I just remember her crying. I would be the exact same way. My mom and I were both very much the same. We were so attached to our hair, and I still am attached to my hair. Like, my entire like routine and schedule of things revolves around when I'm washing my hair. So, you know, I was trying to sit there and say like, you're more than your hair. Like, you are so much more than just the hair on your head. It will come back. And like, to be honest, she was like, it's not helping. It doesn't mean anything right now because like it's not the same, Alexandra. And I was like, I know. I just literally had nothing else to say in that moment. I was just like trying to be supportive, but I appreciate her honesty because I would be the exact same way. Because, sidebar story, when I was in high school, I got mono really badly on my face. My face literally puffed up like Shrek. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before. But my face had puffed up so much that it stretched out the skin like under my eyes. And like, you know, the skin there is very thin. And I had to go to like a dermatologist because like it was not good. And this was like grade 12, a couple of months before grad. And I was wearing makeup every day trying to like hide it, but it was just like not helping whatsoever. And finally the doctor's like, you need to stop wearing makeup for like a good month or so we can heal properly with this medication, whatnot. And I remember bawling my eyes out, like probably to the same magnitude that my mom did. And that's like how like stupid I was. Like, it was like the end of the world. I was like, no, I can't go to school without wearing makeup. And it was like tragedy sort of thing. So it's like, I can only imagine how my mom felt like losing her hair. Cause that's not a month's worth. This is like your entire, you know, like identity, you know, a portion of it. In May 2019, her chemo was finally over. Things were looking good. She, they suggested that she did radiation, and radiation would have been like every single day for a month. And like and it was like, like a 30-minute drive each way. And it wasn't even that. It was just like she'd been a slave to appointments for months, and she just wanted a break. She just like, I want to live my life a little bit. I don't want to feel like crap. I just like, and I totally understand where it came from, and I don't blame her for this decision, but some days I wish I fought a little bit harder to make her do it. Like, who knows if it would have made a difference, or if it would have just been, a wasted month of her, trying to get back to normal life, if you know what I mean. So, summer was around the corner. We bought tickets to the Cher concert. And let me tell you how excited we both were. Like, I fucking love Cher. She's a goddess. So, like, when I saw that she was coming to town, I was like, Mom, do you want to go see Cher? And she's like, fuck yeah, I want to go see Cher. So, we had never, like, really been to concerts together. Like, I think the closest, like, event to that we had ever been to was, like, Disney on Ice with my niece and nephew. So, I'm, like, we had so much fun at this concert. We made a pact after this concert. We were like, we're going to go to every concert we want to go to. We're not going to care how much it costs, because, we had such a fun time at Cher. Like, and, we had pretty good seats, like medium bowl or whatever, but she's like front row. Like we need to get like minimum, like, within the first 5 or 10 rows or something. Like, we need to like fully experience all this. I don't care how much it costs. This is what we're going to do. Whoever comes to town, that's what we're going to do. And I was like, I am here for this. Let's fucking do it. Cher was unfortunately the only concert that we ever really went to. But I have some really awesome pictures and videos from it. So it's a good memory. So getting into the fall, I was about to leave on a trip. I was going to Disney World with Steve and his family. And my mom pulled me aside at like a family dinner. And she was like, hey, I felt some more lumps in, obviously the breast area. And I was like, no, like maybe it's just like scar tissue. She had gone through like a fair amount of surgeries like on her chest, because like you have to go through all of these different steps, like when you're getting reconstructive surgery and all that stuff. And she's like, I don't know. I'm just telling you, I'm going in for like a biopsy, and like I'll let you know how it goes. And she got the results while I was away in Disney World. I remember I was at the pool. We had an off day. We were just relaxing, and she texted me that her cancer was back again. And I felt terrible. And I didn't even know what to say to her. And I just remember her saying, I'm so sorry. And I was like, you don't have to apologize to me. Like, I feel like shit. Like, I'm not even there with you. Like, I'm literally in Florida right now. And I felt so bad, like, being in like, like the happiest place in the world, trying to enjoy myself. And my mom's back home, like just absolutely defeated and crushed. And I felt like ass. When I got home, I was like, hey, I want to come over. And she's like, no, I'm still waiting to hear some more information from the doctors. Like, I'll keep you posted. And it's like a couple of days. I go back to work. Like, I'm trying to keep in touch with her. She's not being like really responsive. So I'm just like, I'm giving her time, and finally, she's texting me, and it's kind of like gibberishy. And I'm like, what is going on? And then finally she calls me. She's like hyperventilating. I'm like, what is going on? And she's like, oh, like, I need you and Christina to come. I'm going to the hospital. I need you to come. So we go. My sister and I meet up with her. We kind of like dice through the hospital. It's like busy as shit. Like, it was fucking packed in there. It was like very overwhelming experience. Like, I had to take the SkyTrain out there too. So imagine being on like a SkyTrain, like a packed SkyTrain, just like, you don't know what's going on. You're just like, I'm going to see my mom in the hospital. She was very panicked when she called me, and I was like, okay. So we finally get there. I remember turning a corner, and my mom had a mask on her face, and this is like way before COVID, but she had a mask on her face, and she's just crying, and she immediately like turns to me, and she's like, it's everywhere, and there's like nothing they can do about it. And I just like stared at her, and then I looked at my sister, and then she stared at me, and it was just, we were just all looking, and I didn't even know what to do. Like, I I guess I just hugged her because I like, what do you even say? What do you even say? So after this, we had concluded that she had had a panic attack. She'd been holding on to this information for like 4 or 5 days at this point. And I was like, how could you have held on to it? And she's like, she needed to make her own peace with it. And I understand that. And so I took I took a laptop and I was working remotely from work. I made remote working cool before it became cool with COVID. Because I just wanted to be there. I felt weird leaving her when she was in such a like vulnerable space, and at this point, like her speech and her headspace was like getting really fuzzy. And like we couldn't like hold conversation the same way. Like we could maybe talk for a few minutes and then she'd like need to sleep. Like she would need to take a nap. She couldn't really text. Like she couldn't look at her computer. Like everything was just like gibberish and like just wasn't like full thoughts and sentences. And like we couldn't stay up and talk late like we used to, which is like a really big bummer for me. She was just really tired. She just needed to sleep all the time. One of the last movies we watched together was The Santa Claus with Tim Allen, which was one of my favorite Christmas movies, still is. Although I hadn't watched it since, and I literally just tried to watch it like last week and just cried and sobbed the whole time because again, I have like weird, like I don't have like this perfect like photographic memory by any means. I don't want to make myself sound like Mike from Suits where I'm like this super genius, but like I do relate like images and like movies and TV shows and like songs and stuff to like points in time, and like it just like was really triggering for me. And like as time went on, like her head started hurting. We took her for a CT scan. She had a really terrible time. Like she was literally crying. She was in so much pain in her head. And I just remember like the nurse coming out to us, like, she couldn't say like what was on the CT scan, but she was like, hey, if her head hurts really badly, I think you should take her to the emergency room. And my mom was like, I don't want to sit in the emergency room. I just want to go home. I don't feel well. I don't want to sit in a chair. And like, again, it like the ER was like packed, and I was like, I'm going to listen to my mom. And I wish I would have, listened to the nurse. Cause from there, Kent took my mom home. I drove back to my apartment in the city, cause it was the holidays. It was my company Christmas party. My mom assured me that she really wanted me to go to the party because I had been staying with her for a week and like shit had been really heavy. So she's like, please go have a fun night. And to be honest, I needed it for myself too. And I was going to be right back there the next day. I'm at home and I get a call from my fiance, Steve, and he's literally like panting, like he's running. And I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, your mom had a seizure. I'm running home right now. Like go, like I was literally getting like my nails and toes done before my company Christmas party. And he's like, get home right now. We're going to go. So we rushed to the hospital, and like Kent's texting us the whole time. And when we get to the hospital, one of the first things my mom says to me, I go see her and like, she looks good. Like she looks fine. Like she's like awake. She's alert, and she's like, so I decided that since I couldn't go to the party, you couldn't go to the party either. And we all just like cracked up laughing. It's just like one of the last like funny things I remember her saying. And I don't know, I thought it was pretty good. But I feel like maybe I'm talking like too much about like this, like the sad like semantics of like everything that happens. Like, I don't know why, but like I for some reason, like talking through her story, I just along the way, I guess I just hope it like brings light to like how like strong she was trying to be, but just like how shitty like diseases like cancer can be to take like such a strong person and just like really like break them down and like turn them into a completely separate person. Like my mom had gone through a lot of shit in her life, and this just absolutely broke her down mentally, and I hated seeing that. Like it's such a bitch of a fucking disease. But to fast forward, long story short, we had found out that it had spread to her brain in like multiple places, and the doctors were like, oh, okay, let's do radiation. We're going to combat them, and she went to radiation, I think once or twice. And after that, she would go in and out of sleep. Like, she would be sleeping for like half a day, would not wake up, then could be barely responsive. Like, she wouldn't talk. She would just kind of like look around the room. She would try to eat, but like not really. And finally, on the day that on the Monday, they tried to take her that morning to her appointment, because they had to take her between two separate hospitals. So when they got to the hospital to do the treatment, she was non-responsive. Like, she just, like, they couldn't wake her up. So they're like, we're sorry, we can't do today's appointment, because like she needs to be awake and alert for it. And once they brought her back, my stepdad told us, it's not looking good. It's looking like probably a few days at this point. And it was just weird, because like the day before we had been there, and she was like up, she was talking, she was fun. Like, me and Steve were literally like dancing for her, like our stupid little dance moves to like rap music or something. And like, she was good. And it's kind of like that last wind that people get, before they pass away. And it's so frustrating, because like sometimes you don't realize that's what it is. Like, I genuinely thought that like her radiation was working, and I wish I like took more time than that to like I just wish I would have been like, hey, can like literally everyone leave the room so I can have like 2 minutes with my mom. Like, I knew at this point that like it was going to come. I just didn't think like within a day or two. Like, I thought maybe like a few weeks, maybe a couple of months, originally, before we knew about it spreading to her brain. Like, they'd given her 2 years, and we had plans for like, what are we going to do in this 2 years? We're just going to like rock the shit out of the next 2 years. And like, I just never thought to ask to clear out that room. Like, I just would have loved to like ask her and been like just like the future. Like, you just want to like, you don't think about these things until later, but it's like, hey, like, what are you okay with? Like, are you okay with, Kent dating someone in the future? Or what can you say to me about my wedding? Like, what can you, I don't know. It sounds kind of dumb, but there's just like, it feels like there's a billion questions that you want to ask someone before they pass, but you really don't know until like after the fact, which is fucking annoying. But when we were there that morning, we were in the room. I was holding my mom's hand, and my stepdad, Kent, had just kind of suggested to me and my sister, he was like, I think, he's like, I'm pretty sure mom can hear us, and I think it's best if we give her our blessing, permission, sort of thing, to let go, and to just, go to a place where like the pain doesn't exist anymore. Like, she was on so much pain meds because it hurt so much, and I was just holding her hand, and I was saying, it's okay, you can go, stuff like that. Okay, sorry, I'm getting really heavy. I'm really, really sorry, guys. Like, this is kind of like chicken soup for the soul for me, but she quickly squeezed my hand like super hard, and then I'll spare you the details, but basically from there on, she passed away. And yeah, I don't know where I was going with that whole telling you guys the in-depth story of like all the medical shit, but I don't know. I really don't. But the things that I do miss is like, it's just the easy stuff that you take for granted. I miss the townhouse, that we lived in since I was like 12 years old. Cause we sold it cause, my stepdad didn't need that much space. I don't blame him, so I miss sleeping over there. We had so many sleepovers there. We had so many Christmases there. I miss movie nights, TV show nights, like just shit talking 90 Day Fiance, girl talk, going for brunch, a sunny brunch in the spring. I don't know why, but we'd always go for like really nice brunches in the springtime. And more than anything, I really miss her laugh. Like that's something that I just always picture in my mind is like, I'm not even going to try to emulate it, but it would almost be one of those like throw your head back and laugh type of things. But that's like literally ingrained in my brain. For her celebration of life, I think we had like over 200 people come, which my stepdad, I think he even put it in the program, but he always said, Adele lit up every room she ever entered. And it's true. Like she made a lot of friends through her lifetime. Like everywhere she went, she would always like find a close confidant, a close friend. And that's why so many people turned out. A lot of my friends came to support me as well. I had a few people from high school that came. So shout out Lauren Vanderbeeren and Brett Austin. I don't know if either of you listen to this, but it was just like so random. But it was really nice for both of them to come. It's just kind of interesting when, you go through stuff like this and you see like who, comes to pay their respects and whatnot. But overall, my mom was just one of the most generous and genuinely kind people in this whole world. And, she would tell you to fuck off if you deserved it, but she had such a patience and always gave people the benefit of the doubt. And she ran herself ragged, like trying to make everyone else happy, and to make sure everyone else was like comfortable and good, and really put that ahead of herself a lot of times. But if you made it to the end of this episode, don't blame you if you haven't. It's been pretty heavy. I'm surprised I haven't started crying yet. I had a few moments there, but more than anything, again, this has just kind of been like a good old chicken soup for the soul situation. So thank you for taking the time to listen to this and to, listen to to listen to who my mom was, who she still is in my heart and my mind. And to just, spend this day like thinking of her, on this second anniversary of her passing. But it's weird to float away in time from people that pass away, because you're like, okay, like the farther you get away from that terrible day, the more you're supposed to heal. But just like the thought of like floating farther away from like when you saw them in person is like such a weird thought. I don't know. I'm kind of just going in circles at this point. Doing this solo is like, it's very, very much a unique situation. Okay, I should probably just like wrap this up. Thank you again so much for listening, guys. Appreciate you all. Love you all. I believe after this episode, Tony Rose and I will be doing a quick little holiday episode between Christmas and New Year's, and then we'll catch you in the new year. After we have some very much needed relaxed time over the holidays, and we'll see you then, guys. Thanks very much. Love you all, and bye.